Hey everyone, I'm Max Brenner, representing with coverage, and I'm here with Eric and Justin. I'll just quickly let them introduce themselves.
Hey everyone, I'm Eric, founder and CEO of Mockingbird. We're a baby gear company selling strollers and high chairs, that kind of thing. Mostly DTC, but also nationwide at Target, and been around for about 5 years.
Hi everyone, I'm Justin Seidenfeld. I'm the co-founder of Canopy, which is a beauty wellness device brand. Our hero product is a humidifier that helps with skin health. We launched 4 years ago and have expanded the business with new product and new channels over the last 4 years. I'm also the co-founder and CEO of Doris Dev, which is a product design and development company that actually incubated Canopy out of. So very deep on making products and setting up supply chains for scale.
Amazing, amazing. Real quick as an introduction, and most of this we focused on Eric and Justin. Basically, we're talking today about something every single brand actually needs. It's a legal requirement, and it's how to protect your baby. How do you protect your brand, the liability, your inventory of millions of dollars moving on a boat, on a truck, tens of millions of dollars in storage. You're having recalls. People are ingesting something you somehow made that millions of people are putting in their bodies, on their skin. And so today, brands spend tens, hundreds of thousands of dollars buying insurance. It's often incorrect. It's often overpriced, and it's a pretty bad experience. So our goal is to be their dedicated risk management team and offer a seamless platform and develop tailored products, coverage products, insurance products that help brands save money. So that's the high level context, and excited to really focus on Eric and Justin and how they've protected their baby and built amazing companies. Maybe Eric, you can start off with your product being extremely high liability, babies, strollers. How do you do it?
Yeah. Well, it's fun, right? You talk about like protect your baby. I think for us that there's two meanings to that. I do think I remember the earliest days starting Mockingbird, the feeling of like we have nothing to lose. Like there wasn't that much to protect at that point, and I do kind of remember that feeling of like insurance. Like why? If this if something bad happens and this goes under, like there was nothing there to begin with. And it's interesting, like there's no moment where someone tells you like, okay, now you have something to protect. And I think that early like scrappy feeling of just hustling and pinching every penny is a really good habit at the beginning. But then there is this, it can be a detriment to really having the right protection and policies in place as you scale when you really do have something to protect. And I think that regardless of category, obviously there is a lot of liability with baby, but regardless of category, I think the mentality shift of having that feeling of, okay, I really do need to protect this. Bad things can happen, they will happen, and not having the fallacy of like, oh, things never fall off the boat for my company, or like, we're super on top of it, and quality is like really, really high, so we're never gonna have an issue. Like, it will happen to you, and depending on the category, that whatever bad things do happen can be really, really serious and costly. So I think overall, the mentality shift of assuming the worst, which maybe for a lot of founders is either a very natural muscle or the very unnatural muscle, but assuming the worst has been really key, and I think actually drives really good decision making from an insurance perspective, at least. So. Yeah, that's been one of the key focuses for us, at least, from an insurance standpoint.
And from my point of view, I've worked in making consumer goods and helping brands launch to market for the last 10 plus years. And there's a lot of really exciting aspects to creating a new product, and insurance is just not one of those. It's basically the last thing that anyone thinks about if they're thinking about it at all, because there's a lot of other things to be worried about or that kind of take up your mind share. So But I've seen a lot of, over the last 10 years, even pre-Canopy and across a lot of product programs, it is something that should be top of mind. There's a lot of exposure that you just don't think about, from creating product to getting it to your warehouse, to distributing it, and then all of the other surface area around running a business that just isn't front and center every day. And unfortunately, what happens is you don't think about it until you need to, which is not what you should be doing. You should really be getting the right partners, the right resources, the right support in place from day one. And I think, from my experience, there has never really been a good experience with insurance until we met Max and his team, and I now think very differently about insurance overall.
Yeah, on that note, I think the first thing that we're all aligning on is maybe it wasn't the most important. Growing your business, increasing your conversion, all those things, top priority. But at the end of the day, it is something you need to do, have to do. Could you talk about how you managed it before, and then potentially how now, looking forward, how it saves you time, money, all those things?
Yeah, I can speak to that. We had a broker, and I think, I'm not going to use the B word again during this talk, but, with a broker, it wasn't a good experience. You didn't feel great. There wasn't transparency. And basically, we had to pick a broker, and once you pick a broker, as the broker of record, they go out and get bids on insurance, and they tell you this is what you need, and it's pretty opaque. And we basically just followed the lead from somebody that we got, told that this was the point person for everything. And I think, I just didn't question it, because again, it's not the most important thing when you're bringing a product to market to really be worried about. And what I realize is that there's a lot of exposure there, and there are better opportunities to actually have a dedicated kind of risk perspective with the right partners in place that could actually be proactive about bringing the best solutions and cutting out costs from a necessary evil, so to speak. So that was, my experience was very kind of 18th century moving into the modern age once we moved over.
I'll definitely second that. I think two aspects of the relationship with insurance are interesting. Like, there is always going to be that middle. I think you never go straight to the carrier, right?
Yeah, no.
Yeah. So there's always some middle party, whether you want to call it a broker or not, like that sits in between you and a carrier for insurance, and that creates this interesting dynamic where I think two things get lost a lot of times. One is the knowledge of what exists in these policies. Like, if you have a D&O policy or a GL policy or something, like, these are usually 100+ page documents, and to Justin's point, like, a lot of times someone just puts that in front of you and says, here's where you sign, and you just sign because you need to go do 1,000 other things. And so if I ask, like, everyone in this room what exclusions are in your GL policy right now, or like, if X, Y, and Z happens, are you covered? My guess, not because anyone's doing anything wrong, but my guess is most people would not know the answer to those things. And as Justin said, that doesn't matter until it does. So I think the knowledge aspect of just how these policies work is really key, and then whoever is acting on your behalf to guide you and educate you on these policies becomes all the more important. The second piece of it, besides the knowledge there, is kind of acting as your advocate. Like, a carrier, if I were to sit in a room with a carrier and say, listen, trust us, X, Y, and Z is not going to happen, give us as cheap of a premium as possible, because this thing that we're protecting with this policy, this lawsuit or this issue or something falling off the boat, like, it's not going to happen because we go out of our way to do X, Y, and Z to prevent that from happening. You don't get that opportunity. Usually you fill out an application that has 100 standard fields, and you hit submit, and then the broker comes back and it's like, here, sign. And I always found, I'm like, put me in the room with them. Like, let's work with the carrier to tell them how much they might be over assessing our risk, or how much we go above and beyond to protect this, so that they don't have to be as worried. because you don't get that opportunity, what you really need is that partner who's in the middle, acting on your behalf, who really understands your business and that you trust to go have those conversations and can speak as well about all the things you are doing to protect your company as well as you can. And that's really hard to find. And I think to Justin's point again, like a lot of old school brokers who've been doing this for too many years, like have just hit this point of repetitiveness, where every company kind of looks and feels the same to them, and they're not actually asking those questions and advocating for you. Whereas, like we said, for With Coverage, the team there has dug in deep to understand our business, and I really do trust that in those conversations with the carriers, they're representing us in a way largely similar to how I would want to be representing us.
And I think, just to clarify for people who don't understand or don't know or haven't heard about insurance, so companies today work with a generalist broker, right? It's someone who serves dentists, restaurants, anyone who comes in, they're like, I'll help you. And they aren't vertically focused, and it's typically an individual. And so our approach is, as they've mentioned about a team, every single brand gets a dedicated risk management team, helping them think through their supply chain, your micro-influencers who are advertising on your behalf, the liability of your ingredients that you're selling. So that's really the team part that they've touched base on. I think it's important, though, to mention how the innovation on two aspects, the platform that saves you guys time, that gives you leverage, filling out this annoying, tedious experience, and then third, being the actual novel products that we're trying to introduce exclusively for consumer brands. So that'd be awesome to just start with the platform.
I can speak to the platform. You talk about the novel products, because I don't think we have that. But the story that just came to mind with regard to the platform, we launched at Target 2.5 years ago. There's some very specific insurance requirements to launch at Target. Again, not something that I was thinking about when I was like, cool, we're launching at Target. And they're like, all right, here's all these insurance requirements. But there's coverage limits, there's all these different types of policies you need to have, there's a lot of documents you need to produce. And our true story, our Target launch almost got botched because of insurance, because the process of literally, all they needed was a certificate of insurance saying Target is covered under these circumstances up to this amount. We had that insurance, we literally just did not have the certificate to prove that. And I think it took upwards of a month to get the broker we were working with to figure it out with the carrier, to get back to us with literally just a PDF that I could forward along, and it almost botched the whole launch of us going to Target. So just as a tiny example of that's why I remember when Max was first showing me the platform, and he was like, here, you just click here, and you write in who you need the certificate of insurance to be made out to, and you hit save, and it comes down, and there you go, it's downloaded. And I think to most people that would be like, okay, who cares? Sorry. But to me, I was like, oh my God, that's amazing. So yeah, I think that it's one little tiny example of just the concept of bringing more of a platform and tech approach to what has been such a stodgy old category that just lives very much in random emails with random people that might or might not email you back. It's a huge unlock that I've really enjoyed. It's just a total game changer from an insurance perspective.
Cool. And on the product piece, most insurances, whether it's GL, general liability, product liability, inventory insurance, you basically give the broker, the underwriter, kind of a upfront estimate of how much you're going to need for the upcoming year. And it's not very dynamic. With Max's team, they have a dynamic option for inventory throughput, as well as general liability. And so basically, instead of having to kind of guess and then get to the end of the year and then either pay the balance for your premium because you went over what your estimate was, they actually take snapshots month over month, and you're paying essentially on a monthly dynamic basis, which is pretty cool and very novel. And for us, it was actually an incredible unlock for cost savings. We ended up, for Canopy, from 2022 to 2023, we had a pretty significant revenue increase, north of 40%, and Max's team was able to keep our insurance premium flat. So we ended up paying the exact same amount out of pocket in the subsequent year that we had paid the year prior. Yeah.
Awesome. I think the important part about this is, can you talk about how the actual business model works, how you pay the carriers, why technically we with Coverage's platform team, there's no added costs, that sort of aspect. I feel like how to pay. Basically, when you need to pay, you pay the carriers, and the carriers pay the broker who places the policy, and how through the platform, through the team, there's no added fees, there's no extra costs.
Right.
From your previous solution to now, you're working with us.
Right. Yeah. that. No, and it is better. I think you also just have a lot more trust than that. You have our best interests in mind. I think that's the key. And again, in an industry that has been historically so shady and like opaque, then just having that level of transparency and incentive alignment is really key.
Yeah, I guess I'll take it to an anecdote. I think trying to like apply this very abstract concept of when you need insurance, and I'll take it to an anecdote from my previous life with another product business, when we had to use insurance, and it was a situation where we didn't have to think about it. We had a container of product that landed in the US that got opened up for customs inspection, and the inspectors found basically 3 dead cats in the container that had somehow gotten into the container in Asia before it got onto the vessel and made its way to California, and ended up getting our container of goods essentially impounded by Customs Border Patrol. And it created a mess for us. It was an entire container it was actually suitcases, so luggage at the time, that we basically couldn't sell and had to, I don't know what they did with it. But we had to file for an insurance claim for that, and it was incredibly opaque process, really cumbersome, took months. And it wasn't a great experience. And that was a really big learning lesson where it was like, this is something that I need to be thinking about, and I need to get a partner that's being proactive about, that type of coverage, and definitely feel like that now. Haven't had any dead cats in recent containers though. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, hopefully no more dead cats. Can you guys talk about, as your business is scaling, you're adding a new warehouse, you're adding a new manufacturer, you're adding new trucks that need to move millions of goods. How are you thinking as a rapidly growing consumer brand? When you started off, it's just be alive, get alive, find your first customers. Now it's, okay, hundreds of thousands of people are buying our goods. Can you talk about the need to focus on scaling thoughtfully to not jeopardize like your baby and have something go wrong?
It's a great call out. I feel like even the way I was thinking about it before, of this almost binary sense of like when you're starting out, insurance is the last thing you want to think about, and often something you don't think about. And I said, then there becomes this moment of like you have something to protect. But it's a great call out of like it isn't actually binary. There's a moment where you have something to protect, so you should get some policies. Then there's a moment where you have even more, and like your insurance needs change over time, which is where it does become just really critical to then have someone to tell you. I sometimes say like your insurance team should be like that annoying friend who's always worried about something. Like I really want that person who's like, yeah, but what if, if you double your revenue, then there's going to be this extra cost over here. Or what if your revenue gets cut in half and then there's this like really big, this risk over here. I don't want to be thinking like that because I will never sleep at night. But like, I want someone to tell me those things and the stories of other companies like dead cats showing up in containers, like so that we can then say, okay, we need to get a dead cat policy, like, and something that you wouldn't ever have to think of. And so I think to answer your question about like, as we scale, as we hit new challenges, we launch new products, the macro environment changes, it's exhausting to try to think about everything that you should be thinking about. So I think that's where it just comes in to say, all right, Max, you and your team, like, tell me everything. And again, I think that's where the trust is crucial, because if you said, here's all these risks, one type of insurance approach would be, okay, get all these policies, give us all this money. But it's like, if I trust you and I know our incentives are aligned and I know your team understands our space really well, then that's coming with a lot of education too, of like, here's why you might want to think about these things. And if you don't, that's entirely up to you. That's your decision. But getting that awareness of some of the differences of the kinds of things you want to protect and the way you want to think about risk tolerance as you get bigger and bigger is really, really important.
Justin, would you mind chatting a little bit about, as your business grew, saving money from inventory perspective with end-to-end kind of coverage and with the integration into Shopify, Amazon, kind of pay as you go, how it just makes it from your business scaling the way it was, how are we able to drive a ton of savings?
Yeah, I mean, as any business grows, you're thinking about top line, but I think over the last year and a half, we've just seen pressure on margin across the board from every angle. And so anywhere that you can save money becomes really important. And so insurance became one of those levers for us where we weren't necessarily thinking about it as, hey, we're going to shave out costs from our insurance, but it become kind of a necessity in our ability to fund growth because we were saving money in an area that we hadn't really thought about. And so that was, huge unlock for Canopy.
Awesome. All right, I don't know if anyone has questions from the audience about this interesting topic, but we will open it up for a few questions.
No cat questions, please.
Yeah, no marketing. Awesome.